All right, welcome back to another episode of Composites Weekly. We're here day 2 at CAMX early, and I've got Dan Neumann. He is the VP of Government Relations with the ACMA. He's joining me this morning. Dan, thanks for stopping by.
Thanks for having me.
Coming in a little early. Dan's got a full schedule today, so we wanted to bring him early before 9 a.m. As many of you know, Dan is Dan's got 20 years of experience in policy work, government relations, media, and data analysis at the ACMA. He works with other professionals to make composites the sustainable material of preference, and we thank you for that, Dan.
We're doing our best.
So Dan came on, I would say about, you were on the show about 6 weeks ago, I want to say, maybe somewhere around there, but it was right before what we thought might be a pending shutdown. It looked pretty likely in Washington. They did pass a continuing resolution for funding through, what is that, November 17th?
November 17th, yes.
Okay. All right. So, avoided that, because there's ramifications for so many industries, including ours out there. What's the latest? Because there's been a lot of drama in Washington that has taken place since then. I know the speaker at the time is no longer there, and now we have a new guy in place. What do things look like? First of all, with the continuing resolution, how do things look past November 17th? And we'll go from there.
Sure. So first of all, thank you very much for having me back. It's not often that you get invited back to a composites podcast.
Sure.
When you were wrong the last time you were on, I said we were likely heading to a shutdown when we last spoke in
I don't
September.
think you placed any odds on that. I don't think you were. I don't think I got a wager from you on that.
Right. But unfortunately, the continuing resolution that was passed, that you were correct, only goes till November 17th, which means as we sit here today at a very vibrant CAMX, we are 16 days away from the exact same situation we were talking about in September. Some of the players have changed, which obviously changes some of the palace intrigue and the politics that are going on there. Speaker McCarthy is former Speaker McCarthy now, as you correctly said. And we now have a new gentleman, Speaker Johnson from Louisiana, that frankly Washington is just getting to know.
He doesn't have a lot of clout, or previously, right?
Correct. So he had to be polite about it. He had limited leadership experience prior to becoming third in the presidential succession. Well, second after the president. It goes president, vice president, speaker. So he got a bit of a jump there. So he is now steering the ship. He has said that he is open to another continuing resolution, either to January or April, depending on what the caucus is willing to vote for to support.
Okay.
In order to preempt the Senate from trying to move through a big omnibus funding bill that is viewed as politically undoable in the House.
Right.
Now, of course, the Senate has come back and said that they don't like that process. So we are back. Actually, today is the first day of votes under the speakership for Mr. Johnson.
Sure.
We're starting off with some really political votes. It's going to be on a censure motion on one Democrat, one Republican, and then a resolution to expel Congressman Santos, who everyone is trying to figure out exactly what he is, including some federal prosecutors. So it's going to be an interesting day.
They're taking care of all the big stuff, the really important stuff first, right?
Right. But on a nuts and bolts level, it's important to remember, a speakership is not just the guy at the top. There's a whole level of staff underneath the speaker that really make the House of Representatives work. In a logistical sense, we can have a debate later over some beers whether it actually ever works. But from a nuts and from just a logistical standpoint, there's a huge leadership team that Speaker Johnson needed to step up in about a week and then tackle one of the biggest political questions that we've seen in quite some time: how this Congress with this president is going to fund the government. As of this morning, he has filled all of those spots, or all of the major spots. There may be one or two relatively junior folks that they have to hire to answer phones or open mail, but What was interesting, talking to some folks and reading some folks last night, because this is changing hour by hour, day by day. He seems to have moved towards. He's brought back some staff that he had previously
Okay.
that had left his office
Mhm.
to go work in other places in Washington, and he has not gone to former staffers for the former speaker, which
Yeah.
was which was something that I thought may happen, just because you've got minutes and hours, not days and weeks, to
Right.
step up the staff. And to
Yeah.
give your listeners some understanding, prior to becoming speaker, he had his 14 or 15 staff in Washington. Today he has 50.
Okay. Wow.
So you're looking at a significant
Yeah.
expansion of his staff. And running that type of organization is a skill in and of itself, and
Sure.
so we will see
Yeah.
how that goes. But um, we are just 16 days away from
Mhm.
getting an answer on the funding issue, and this week is going to be taken up quite a bit with some foreign policy related work. Once we get through some of the politics today, the funding for Israel
Yeah.
is top of mind to many in Washington. Others want to link that to Ukraine
Yeah.
and Taiwan funding
Right.
as
Right.
well.
Yeah.
And still others want to add the border issues and immigration issues to that.
Mhm.
Uh, when things are that messy, as a former staffer
Yeah.
in Congress, when I hear things that messy, that equates to time,
Yeah.
because it just takes time to negotiate all of those things out, and that's not something we have a lot of right now.
Exactly.
So
16 days.
correct.
So
Now, and Washington generally is not very good at walking and chewing gum. As a From a practical perspective, it is often very challenging for Congress at a senior level
mhm.
to move multiple major questions at a time, just because the people that you need in the room can't be in two places at
Right.
once.
Right.
And so it's not a comment on their capability, it's a comment on just, you need the right people in the right room at the right time
Yeah.
to close a deal. It's like any other negotiation,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Private sector or public sector.
And everyone has their own agendas, right? I mean,
Exactly right.
they're all thinking about their own personal agendas or what their ambitions are to get done.
Exactly right. Now, I will say, and I know I talked about it a little bit the last time we were here,
Yeah.
the things below the leadership level are moving forward, and we're
Sure.
watching legislation that both sides have said they want to move quickly, and that includes language on FAA, including how the country deals with drones and advanced air
Mhm.
mobility, which is obviously an issue for us,
Yeah.
but also how we launch them, how we store them, et cetera. So for our infrastructure folks, for our folks that are interested in reinforcing materials, this is going to be a big bill for them as well. Sometimes when people hear FAA, they think, oh, that's just for the aerospace guys. This year, it is not. This is going to
Yeah.
be a big bill. They're going to take a big swing at some of these questions. So
Okay.
we're following that very closely.
Great.
And then in the first half of next year, the bill that funds all the Army Corps activity in the
Mhm.
country, including their maintenance and their research and what they can train on, will be coming up for consideration. So
Okay.
that is something else that we are following very, very closely. We don't have bill text on that yet. We do see bill text on the FAA.
Yeah.
Both of those, I believe, are going to be big topics of conversation at our fly-in, which will be February 26th to
Right.
28th this
Right.
year.
That's right.
Hope we can talk during that
Absolutely.
again.
For sure.
But and then obviously also, we've got regulatory items out there, and I'm sure
Mhm.
that your listeners are interested in that.
Yeah.
We do expect to see some movement by EPA to begin the process to look at styrene
Yeah.
under a piece of legislation called the Toxic Substance Control Act, or TSCA. That is a long process. It's going to take a couple years for that process to move through.
Right.
My colleague John Schweitzer, who I know has been on this program,
Yeah.
is leading our effort on
Mhm.
that. We have had multiple conversations with EPA. We have had EPA visit composites facilities to see how it is used. They stayed for lunch, which I think is a good sign. They
That's
didn't think that it was,
it doesn't sound hostile.
right.
At
Well,
least.
and,
Yeah.
and then clearly they were willing to
Yeah.
at least sit in the plant and have some food, so that
Right.
was good.
Right.
But in all seriousness, no, it was a very good educational experience. They were able to
Sure.
learn more down to the chemistry. I saw pictures of John bust out the dry erase marker on a board to walk them through.
Great.
At a really granular level there. But what that will mean, if it comes in December, as we expect, we may start to see data requests out to composites and other users of styrene to begin to collect some of the exposure and emissions data that is part of that. That is about as far as I can talk about that, and not get in trouble. So, but I would expect, but for all of your listeners who are curious about that process and how they might be able to help, ACMA is very involved in that process. I would strongly urge them to reach out to John Schweitzer at ACMA or to me, and I can connect them to John Schweitzer at ACMA.
For sure. About that. But as you said, all of this slow walks through in Washington, really. I mean, it's you mentioned 2 years. I mean, that could be for all we know, that could be a new administration. We don't know.
Could be
what that means.
That is correct. And so, we will see. We are not gonna just cross our fingers and hope for the best when it comes to that. We are going to control the things we can control.
Sure.
Absolutely. And that means that we're going to be really educating EPA on the importance of composites to the green energy sector, to hardening facilities, to making infrastructure more durable, all of which are priorities of the administration. And we're going to remind them that is an important part of looking at the role of composites in the marketplace.
Dan, always a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Great to
I
catch
appreciate
up.
it.
And again, mention the dates on the infrastructure fly-in. That is April
So it's February.
I'm sorry, February.
So it's beyond So last year was an infrastructure fly, infrastructure and sustainability. This year we are just saying we're bringing composites to Washington. It's Composites 2024.
Okay.
Our logo kind of looks like an election sign.
Yeah.
It's very clever. We came up with that.
That's
idea.
awesome.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Fantastic staff work. But that will be going on February 26th to February 28th.
Okay. February 26th through the 28th, and I'm sure there's a place they can, if they go to the website over at ACMA, they can find information on that. So we'll try to post a link as we get closer. We'll announce it, and we'd love to have you back on during that time to update things.
Great, thanks. Looking forward to it.
All right, thanks,
Always
Dan.
a pleasure.
Yep, you bet. All right, good stuff. Hey.